Welcome back. Thanks for staying with us. We're now getting some live visuals coming in of Rahul Gandhi and a set of cars now moving around with him. Now, remember, the Congress delegation had asked for permission to go to Lakhimpur. That permission was denied, citing that Section 144 is in place. You already have Priyanka Gandhi in detention in Sitapur, and we've seen how the Congress continues to be on the offensive. They continue to escalate their protests across the country. So it's not just Rahul Gandhi. We heard him a little while earlier in a press conference, and he said that what we are seeing today is the worst phase for the farmers. There is a sense of dictatorship as far as the Modi government is concerned. So now those visuals coming in of Rahul Gandhi en route to Lakhimpur. But as I pointed out, the permission was denied, citing Section 144. Pallavi is now joining us with more details. Pallavi, any more details about what route we could see him? Could he be going to the airport, or is he taking the route by road?
See, actually, what we are being told by Congress that both the options are being kept open. But as of now, he's booked on an Indigo flight where he's supposed to land in Lucknow at around 1:20. But it's very clear, Ridhima, that he's not going to be allowed to step out of Lucknow airport. Accompanying him are the chief ministers of Chhattisgarh as well as of Punjab. And we saw how the Chhattisgarh CM, Bhupesh Baghel, was not allowed to go out of Lucknow airport. So that could be a repeat of pretty much the same thing. Now, the second thing is, if Rahul Gandhi decides to take the roadway, then also he's not going to be allowed to cross the border, because that's the request which has gone in from the Lucknow police to the Delhi police. They anticipate a flare-up of the situation, and therefore they say that Section 144 is in place. Rahul Gandhi's argument to this is that, Section 144 applies in the case of a delegation of more than 5 members. I'm just being accompanied by 2, so we're a team of 3. Clearly, he wants that confrontation full on, because that also helps him score his political brownie point. But as of now, we are told that he's likely to take a flight and land at the Lucknow airport by around 1:30.
But Pallavi, as you were pointing out, even if the confrontation does happen, it'll happen a lot away from where the real action unfolded because of Section 144, which is in place. A clear strategy by the Congress to not give up and use this as an opportunity to mount the offensive?
Yes, I mean, look at his press conference. In the entire press conference, he kept on making the point that it's not about Priyanka Gandhi Vadra being detained. It's about the case of the Kisans, and the Congress party stands with them. Frankly speaking, when you detain a political leader, you stop them from reaching the spot, they do derive political advantage out of it. It happens pretty much in the case of Hathras. It also brings you into limelight. So obviously he knows that he won't be allowed to go beyond the point of time. And they still want to do so, and they want to do so because for a simple reason that this is exactly the argument they are going to use against the state government by saying that they define all the norms of democracy and they are not allowing our legitimately elected leaders to actually reach the spot and sympathize with the people.
And Pallavi, the other argument that's coming in when you speak to a whole host of spokespeople from the Congress, they're saying that this is a specific targeting only for Congress, because you had a TMC delegation that went on ground, so why not the Congress leaders?
Yes, he did say that, but the Trinamool Congress never even was actually, what sources are telling us from the state administration, it's not that they were given permission. If you quote the Sushmita Dev, the TMC leader who reached the spot, she said, we use some guerrilla tactics. And so there was a clear strategy in place which we have reported upon on how they managed to reach the spot. But the argument which is being given by Rahul Gandhi is that if the Green Party was allowed to enter, if TMC was allowed to go to Lakhimpur and everything went on smoothly, why is it that you're stopping us?
And Pallavi, as I said, the Congress has been on the offensive. Even though Priyanka Gandhi has been in detention, she has been releasing video messages as well. The strategy is clear, to have all possible leaders on the ground, or at least the attempt is to try and reach the ground.
Yes, it's a coordinated attempt, and not just in Delhi or in Uttar Pradesh, but also you're seeing across the country. And look at the choice of leaders that they are making. They're using chief ministers of 2 states, which also have an agrarian background and who are, of course, considered to be rooted to the ground. One is, of course, Charanjit Singh Channi. One can understand because the protesters, the farmers, are largely from Punjab, and over here it's an emotive issue. And Bhupesh Baghel, who's also an observer for the polls for the Congress party as far as Uttar Pradesh elections goes. But this apart, you saw protests, for example, in PCC chief, Navjot Singh Sidhu in Punjab, and then down south, in Kashmir as well. They're trying to shift the goalpost from showing solidarity with Priyanka Gandhi Vadra to now showing solidarity with the protesting farmers.
Pallavi, yesterday we saw 2 chief ministers, as you were rightly pointing out. Bhupesh Baghel, he staged a dharna at the Lucknow airport. There was Chief Minister Channi joining the protest in Chandigarh. Today we were reporting about how Sachin Pilot also could be headed towards Lakhimpur. Are you picking up any more names of any other Congress leaders who could be joining the protest as well?
But the high-profile one, of course, is Sachin Pilot, who's already landed and is on his way to the Ghazipur border, where most probably he's going to be stopped from entering into Lakhimpur. But apart from that, in state after state, there are organized protests, there are organized sit-downs and dharnas. And, of course, other leaders are also going to try and make almost all of UP Congress workers at this point of time outside the guest house of Priyanka Gandhi Vadra in Sitapur. Since the internet connections have been snapped, we haven't heard much from her in terms of her tweet. And that's also the point which was made by her yesterday when she issued a statement that I have been told formally that I have been arrested, but the formalities are not being completed. I am not being allowed to meet up with my lawyers, no magistrate. I have not been produced before a magistrate. Robert Vadra also said that he made an attempt to reach out to his wife and also travel, but again he was stopped at the border. So I think it's a coordinated, concerted attempt being made by the Congress party to make a political point.
Okay, Pallavi, thanks for getting us those details. Pranchu is also now joining us on the broadcast. Pranchu, you've been reporting from the ground since morning. Talk to us about the bandobast on the ground, because the Congress, as we were discussing, is very clear with their strategy. They will try to reach as far as they can.
Well, as of now, Rahul Gandhi is being reported to be heading for the Delhi airport, from where at 12:25 this afternoon, expected to board a flight to Lucknow. So we are expecting that, his arrival in Lucknow should be around 1:30 p.m. this afternoon. But there are full arrangements in place, and the build-up of Congress workers is already has started outside the Lucknow International Airport. But the heavy force is also being deployed so that, Rahul Gandhi will clearly not be allowed to step out of the airport. That is what the plan as of now in place. There are, multiple channels of dialogue going on between the Lucknow police, the Delhi police. The political, connections are also being made with the Congress workers. So the message has been communicated that though Rahul Gandhi, even if he comes, he will not be allowed to step out of the airport. That is very clear at this stage. And the force, of course, is being deployed outside the airport to control the surging crowds of the Congress workers there.
Pranchu, yesterday we saw Congress protests not only at the Lucknow airport with Bhupesh Baghel, but we saw Congress protesters outside the guest house in Sitapur, throwing away barricades as well. Is there an assessment, is there a sense that the first confrontation could happen right at the airport itself?
Well, if the Congress workers do turn up there was clearly going to be a lot of sloganeering, and slogans being raised, protests and all that will happen. But in terms of violence, the Congress protest has not been violent, at least not in Sitapur. Even as, there are still hundreds of Congress workers outside the guest house where Priyanka is presently put in custody. So the protest is going on. And on the political level, it feels that Congress party clearly has got a moment of an opportunity where it feels that it can show some sort of strength here in Uttar Pradesh, even though they remain quite weak in politically speaking, but they do feel that there is an opportunity for them in this entire matter.
Okay, Pranchu, thanks for getting us all those